Hey everybody, it's Kate Richburg and it is time for Beadshop Live. I thought the countdown was fun, so I did the countdown. I don't know, sometimes I do it and it makes me feel like I'm all backstage and ready to go on. So I don't know. I figured since today was wire with my spirit animal wire, that I would do it up a little. It's a little funny. So anyway, I like the countdown. It's like a rock concert. Anyway, so hey everybody, it's great to see you all here. I wanted to say a big shout out, of course, to Janice over on YouTube. And I know that Gita is over on Facebook doing some moderating. So we really, really appreciate that because, as you guys know, but I'll tell you guys again, without all of you all, we would not be able to be here doing what it is that we love. So it looks like everybody's super stoked and excited to be here. Shelly says, I'm going to put you up on the screen, Shelly. I'm going to call you out. She says, "Hi, Kate. It's the first time I've seen one of your lives." Well, welcome. We love that you're here and that everyone is here and jumping in. Janice says I look good. I think it's Janice because I cleaned my front camera. I don't know. Maybe that, or I'm wearing some baubles to adorn because today is all about metal, and you know how I love metal. So, shall we get started? Yes, let's. All right. I love it. I love all of these hellos all the way around the board. So I am going to talk about metal today, and specifically in the metal realm, we're going to look at wire. I've got all my wire out here. So let's first take a look though at the tools. Okay, so let me switch this camera around here. There we go. And I purposefully didn't change kind of the background paper of this because it's a little, you can see I've got a little bit of a coffee stain right here and some random pieces of thread and stuff going on. But wire can be kind of a messy business. So I didn't clean too much here because we're going to get this background probably a little messy. So let me talk to you about the tools first and foremost. Okay, and then we're going to talk about some styles that we're going to do, and then I have a couple of things in my head that I want to make. So let's see if they come out. You never really know. Okay, so here are the basics that we're going to be working with today, and you can see I've got a bunch of pliers sitting in front of me. Let me get them more into the shot here. And so you don't need a lot of tools to work with wire, right? And so if we start kind of up at the top with that blue handled plier, we're going to need a bent chain nose plier. Those act like little fingers to help you kind of put your wire where you want it to be. And then we have regular chain nose, just a nice smooth serrated pair of chain nose. These are the ones that we carry that are kind of what we call our quote unquote economy tools, but the quality is really great. I love these handles. They fit really well in my hand. My hands aren't that large, but even if you have larger hands, it's pretty comfortable to work with these, especially since there's a wider grip on the bottom of these. And one of the secrets when you're working with wire, you guys, is that we don't choke up on the plier like this up here. We actually apply the pressure down here at the bottom of the handles. So this makes them a little more comfy. Okay, so that's these guys here. Then we've got a round nose. Now, regardless of whatever round nose you choose to use, you want to make sure that these heads are perfectly round. Okay, and we've got some other round nose pliers here at Beadshop as well that we carry. So you can decide what works for you. Then we've got my precious Xuron maxi shear wire cutter, made in the US. I love them. They're great for cutting up to soft wire now, not memory wire. We're talking. We've got a special plier for memory wire, special cutter, and that cutter looks like this. So don't mistake them. Okay, do not mistake them. And then we've got this new little cutter that I keep teasing you with. These are on order, so we're gonna get these guys in, and you can see they're a nice. They're going to be a really great price. They're nice and tapered for thin gauge wire. You'll use this with up to 20 gauge, and we'll have more. The Xuron, like everything else. Supply chain is just still nuts with the pandemic. We have been waiting on some Xuron cutters, so I promise you guys we'll be getting all of these. If we're out of stock on some things, put yourself on the waiting list. And also the waiting list also tells us how many people want the item, so we can adjust our order levels accordingly. So if you want them, throw that up on there and put your name up on the waiting list. And as soon as they get back into stock, you'll get that email. But then jump on it, because you're not the only one on that waiting list for them. Okay. So, and I'm sorry, just especially like with these US tools that are made, like with Xuron, they're up in Maine, our friends up in Maine. And it's just getting steel for any kind of tools is difficult right now. So we really appreciate your patience with it, but they'll be in, and you guys will see these in a few weeks. I think you guys are going to love these little cutters. Small, tiny, really fits in my smaller hand. So it's great. So I've got a few other tools that you may have laying around your house. Okay. Now, I don't know if you remember back when I did a broadcast, right when we got like the bench block and hammers and stuff in. And I did a broadcast with Janice, and JP was hammering, and she was hammering at home like on a cutting board, right? And so on camera, we had this spirited discussion, right? But I think it's important for you guys to look around your house and see what kind of tools you might have there, because, in a pinch, if you need to hammer on something that you might have already, there's no reason why you shouldn't try it out, right? So let's look at kind of these kind of things you might have around your house. I'm going to show you, you guys have seen this before. It's an oldie but a goodie. This is just a regular pen. This brand happens to be Bic. And you can see, and I'm going to measure these so you can see, because you could also use different kind of, let me push the right button here to zero this out. This pen, the millimeter, it's about a 7.5 millimeter mandrel here, but this is and I have one of these in my little tool case. This is my ear wire jig, and I'll show you how I use that. Okay, this permanent marker, it's the larger permanent marker. This one's almost an 11 millimeter mandrel. Okay, here's another big one. One of those, a highlighter. This guy is about 17 millimeters. It's big. This is another one. We use these mechanical pencils here at Beadshop a lot. This mandrel is a little smaller than the Bic pen. It's 7.3. I'm going to call these mandrels, even though they're pens and pencils. And you can get a knitting needle. I grabbed this right off of my workbench. It's a round file, but I'm going to use this side of it as a little round mandrel. It's about a 2.3. You can use like a metal knitting needle or something like that, but I wanted something that was small, so I just arbitrarily grabbed that. We carry these nice little rulers. I use these a lot to mark my wire, to mark straight lines. I love them, these little metal rulers. They're super, super handy. And then you can either get like an emery board, or I have a couple of pieces. I also just grabbed these right off my bench of wet dry sandpaper. You probably have these as well in your tools at home. This is a 220 grit and then a 400 grit. Okay, so both of those will work. Now, some of you also have your bench block and hammer, which we carry here at Beadshop. And you can see what I did. I made a little pad for this guy because it's noisy, right, when you hammer on this. So I actually had one of our bead mats that had gotten a little bit damaged. So I cut out this square. It's just a Velux, you know, like the bead mats we carry. But you could use a little piece of felt, a couple of layers of felt, or some leather or whatever. But it just makes a nice little surface for hammering, okay? And of course, we have our chasing hammer that's right here that we're going to be hammering and flattening our pieces with. Okay, so those are the tools that I'm going to use today. Okay, let me show you a couple of projects that I made with wire, and one of them just to give you kind of a visual inspiration, and then I'm going to jump in and just start riffing. This is a piece that I did a billion years ago, a chain. I'll get a little closer so you can see it. You guys have the capacity already to create little bits of chain like this. All right, this is 16 gauge wire. And you can see I used, I'll tell you how big these are. I found a mandrel. Whatever mandrel size I used, I can't remember, but the inside diameter, let me re-zero it. There we go. The inside diameter of these rings, let me see if I can get it nice and tight there, the measurement. Let me get it on there. Bear with me here. There we go. These, whoops, I don't want it in inches, I want it in millimeters. It's about a 4.5 millimeter on the inside, and then on the outside, it is, sometimes it's a little difficult to get everything lined up there, about 7.5 millimeters. And the gauge, this is a 16 gauge wire. So it's really easy to make your own jump rings like this, and I'm going to show you. These are pieces, this is a piece of square wire that I twisted and then soldered some rings to. So this is a little piece of chain that I made. But you can also, I'm going to show you today a little component piece that I'm going to make that's kind of similar to this, that will be fun for you. And then this is a piece, I may have shown you guys this before, way back in the day. You guys may remember Wire Jewelry magazine. It was edited, it was from Interweave Press, and it was edited by my buddy Denise Peck, who has written a lot of great jewelry books. And I was Wire Jewelry Artist of the Year, which sounds very fancy. And I guess it was, I don't know, I guess it was kind of fancy. And it was back in, I'm going to say it was like 2012 or something like that. I don't know. But this is one of the pieces I did for Wire Jewelry, for one of my, I had a project in every issue that year. So that was really fun. This is heavier gauge wire. I think this was bronze that I used, and we don't carry it in the heavy gauges like 14 and 12. I think this might be 14. And then I shaped these and I actually soldered them, but you don't have to solder your rings that look like this. And this is a piece that I got forever ago from my buddy Cynthia Thornton, Green Girl Studios. This eye with that rose cut sapphire in the center. And you can see I made that little connection right there that this hangs from. And then I wrapped these links with Irish wax linen and used a little 4 millimeter bead on the end. And I think it adds kind of an interesting texture to it. I really like combining metal and textiles. You know, I have kind of a textiles background, having worked in the costuming industry for a while, the theater as a younger person. And so textiles and cloth and stuff has always been kind of my jam. There we go. You can see that a little bit better. So I love mixing. So I might incorporate something like this today too. But this would be really easy for you to make. If any of you grabbed our saw our Facebook Friday flash sale this last Friday. And thank you so much for your support of that. It was lots of fun. We're going to do more of it. If you got some of those large rounds, these 10.5 millimeter rounds, I think there's actually a few of these chrysoprase left. So if you didn't grab them, you can. I think there's like maybe a few of these and like maybe like less than a handful of the faceted labradorite. That faceted labradorite would also work with this as well. But you could just do a simple link like this is here with these, and it would really look amazing. Okay, so just reach in deep into your creative well and go for it. This is an especially nice strand. Look at that. I'm getting distracted by these. So let me put these aside because I just talk about those beads all day. Okay, so I want to do something that maybe is a pendant. I don't know. I don't know but I'm going to just cut some wire. So this is our wire straightening plier too, our nylon jaw plier. And you can see if your wire is at all bent, you can come down and run the heads of the plier down the wire. So what I'm going to start with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to start with 3 pieces of wire, I think. And I'm going to measure these so you know. Where's my cute little, there it is. Here we go. I'm going to cut, this is 16 gauge, again, 16 gauge that I'm using. So just so you can see, maybe I'll cut 3 inches and then I'm going to make the component and then I will alter it if I need to. Okay, this is just how I riff when I'm making stuff up like I am on the fly. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to use, see how I used actually the memory wire cutters for these heavy beads, right? Or heavy wire like this, and it gives you a really clean flush cut at the end. So I use my memory wire cutters a lot for also just regular wire cutters as well. Okay, and so let's make sure that that's 3 inches. And it's not, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut it down at 3. It felt a little long. Okay, perfect. Spot on. Okay. So I think I'm going to use and I'm going to mark the center of this. Okay, let me get my marker, which is right here. So we'll go right here. At 1.5, I don't want to mark my velvet pad. There's that, and I'm going to just make sure that I know what the center is. Okay? I know you're as eager as I am to know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use this. This might be a little bit big. Let me use this as a mandrel. So you don't always have to shape things with a plier. Right? You can just come around. Let me raise the camera a little bit. You can just kind of come around and use a mandrel. And we do have those nice metal mandrels. I didn't grab them. I have them on my, let me actually holler for Jordan. Hey, Jordan, can you grab those metal mandrels off the wall that we have? Do you mind? It's the 2 metal mandrel set, the 2. Do you mind? I was so focused on pliers that I didn't grab the mandrels. So I want to show you those 2. So see how I'm just coming in and I've made that component. And I like the size of that. Perfect. Thanks, Jordan. And here are the mandrel set that we have. it was at my insistence that we got these, so I want to make sure that you guys see these as well. These are 2 sets here, right? And this size, let me measure this one. I think that's 9mm maybe. Let me look. That's actually, yeah, 10mm at the bottom. Let me see what this one is. That one's just a little bit bigger at 11. So you could also use this if you're making this a little bit smaller. But this mantle set I love. So I think this is 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10mm. And then this is 1.5, 2, 3, 4, and 5mm, I believe. And they're just nice to have around. I like them. And like I say, I have a set of these, an old set of these that I've had for a long time. So they're really great to have. Okay. So I'm going to continue since I've made this, this component here. Okay. I'm going to make 2 more. And when I'm designing with my wire, I like to batch my tasks, if that makes sense, right? So that my muscle memory, my hands are remembering what I'm doing as I repeat it, okay? And this, someone asked about this, the caliper. We carry these calipers here at Beadshop as well, and they're so handy, especially if you do a lot of online bead shopping. And usually the description, or the bead sizes, I guess is what I want to say, are written on websites in millimeters. So it's easy to, kind of get all of those sizes confused. So it's nice to have, like, if you know the bead that you're looking at is a 10mm bead, you can kind of open this up to 10 and you can see, oh, that's a pretty decent sized bead, as opposed to maybe a 6.5mm or a 6mm bead. Okay, super handy. All right. So let me go ahead and mark these. I'm going to actually straighten these out. Like so. Let's straighten. Whoops. And notice how I cut the wire off the spool, but I'm holding it in my chain nose plier here in my non-dominant hand, right? And you can see that it was easy to hang on to. And then let's say, though, that I didn't have the perfect flush cut. Like this one's a little bit off, and I think I'm going to hammer these. So what I do is I get my sandpaper, and this is the 220, but it could be the 400 too. I put it face up on my bench block, and then I just rub my tip of the wire right over the sandpaper, right? And since the bench block is firm, it gives me a nice firm base so that I'm sanding these nice and flush. Okay. So there's that. All right. So now let me mark the center of these, since that was really helpful. Sometimes I measure and sometimes I don't, but today, if I want to get everything uniform, right, then I want to mark it. So I'm working, as I say, with 16 gauge, though you could take this up. Is that in the middle? I'm like 1 tick off, aren't I? But it's close. It's close. Let me just remark that. You could go up to heavier, to a gauge beyond 16 if you wanted, or you could go down to 18 gauge for this. Okay, whoops, I lost my demo. Can't let me do that solo. I don't know why that happened. Okay, there we go. So what do Pam says, Kate, what do you recommend for rounding the tip? Now, you can get something that's called a cup burr, C-U-P-B-U-R-R, a cup burr. But And I have some, and I use them sometimes. But you can also, if you were rounding, you could also just round the ends this way by sanding it on your wet dry sandpaper or picking that sandpaper up. This 220 is a little heavy. I don't know why this is a little bit better. This is 400, right? And you can just rotate it in here. And especially like if you're making ear wires, that's what you want to do. But a cup burr, and this is nice and smooth now, and it should be fine. A cup burr is like a little cup. It's exactly what it sounds like. And a metal cup, tiny, and it has little serrations on the inside. And so that cup goes along the outside and twists around, and it kind of rounds up the end of your wire. So it's a common tool in the metalsmithing world. But you could put it in a pin vise and do it by hand. Or if you had a Dremel, you can put it on a low speed and do it there. So let me make 2 more of those. So what I did was I started here at the end, and I'm going to try and remember so that they come out kind of the same. And then I started here at the end and rotated these around. Okay, so it was kind of like that. These look about the same size, right? Then this little end right here, I just used my bent chain. I'm going to get my bent chain. And I pushed it in along the mandrel, aka permanent marker. And I'll put this on. And I'll just use that and push it in. Okay, so now I have 2. And see how that one is a little rounder than this one? So that means that I just need to maybe make this a little bit, see how I adjusted it just slightly there? And it just needs to be pulled around and adjusted just slightly there. So they look a little more identical. You can adjust them with your fingers. That's pretty close, okay? And people are saying they also round their wire with a file. Yep, you can do that. I use number 4 files a lot. I think they're super handy, and that will work out just fine. Get this side and here. Okay. Like that. And then I pushed, I like my bent chain for this. There we go. And let me push this one in. And see, they get into where I can't with my fingers, right? Let me get this in there too. There we go, nice and round. Let's take a look. Those look good. I like the way those look. Yes, they're about the same size, or as close as I'm going to get them today. So let me hammer these flat. Let me give them a little bit of dimension. Now this might be a little bit loud, so I'm going to actually mute my my microphone so that it doesn't get too loud for you, okay? But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to put this on my bench block, and I'm just going to shape this. I'm just going to hammer it, give it a little bit of dimension. So I'll do the first one. So let me mute. I'm muting, and I'll be right back. There we go. You can see how I've made that, and you can't, but I'll show you. And that wasn't actually too loud because I've got so much padding underneath. So I'm going to hammer with this on. So let me know if it's too loud, okay? There we go, and that looks pretty even. I'm going to flip it. And give it just a little bit of hammering all over, just to work harden it. Okay, so can you see what I've got there? I've got that component. Let's hammer another one. Okay, so I started here and here, so I'll do those, keeping my fingers out of the way. And see how when I'm striking the metal and pulling the hammer. So I'm planishing or pushing that metal a little bit to shape it. And see how nice that looks with that shape. Okay? And again, this is dead soft copper wire. Okay? Not half hard, but dead soft. Okay? And hammering, as I hammer this, right, it does work harden it. After planishing those ends, I just hammer the whole thing a bit to just flatten it, give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, so now there's two. Let's do my third one. Now you don't have to have heavy blows here, right? And I'm not bringing my hammer very high from above. My hammer just lifts maybe a ½ inch off the surface of where I'm hammering. So I've got a lot of control when I'm hammering, okay? That helps a lot. And I flip. And give it a little love. Okay, so now I've got 3 of these. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange these in a little pattern so that I'm going to see if I can make a little component, right? And Janice is asking a really great question. Could we use any of the 16 gauge wire we sell from Parawire? And the answer to that is yes, we could use any. It doesn't have to be the bare copper. All of it will hammer just fine. And you can see I might maybe that wrap there and there. I want to connect these somehow. I was thinking I could make them into kind of a little like a little component design maybe. I might actually want to make these a little bit longer. There we go. I kind of like that as a center maybe. Okay, so let's see how those shake out. So I'm going to, let me get my, I'm going to mark where I want to bring these together. So maybe about like this. I want a little bit more air or a little bit more space. So here and here is where I'm going to wrap here and here. Okay, that's pretty. So I'm going to do that with, I don't know, 26 maybe? Maybe 24. I think 26. 26 is a little bit thinner. It's a little more malleable. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so I'm going to start by attaching, and you know, they want to kind of move around, so you know what I'm going to use. You don't, but I'm going to tell you. I'm going to clip these together using my clampers. Look at that. So I've got some control over how these sit. There we go. All right. So let me poke my wire. Do I want to wrap it? I think I want to wrap it this way. Let's see. And this is 26 gauge. How much did I cut off, you ask? I don't know. A foot, which is probably too much. But I'm going to do this kind of neatly at this point. And then I might get a little messier. This is a little much to send through, so I'm going to cut it, and I'll use the rest on the other side. But I'm wrapping just over that mark. And I'm going to wrap until I feel it's good. Does that make sense? I don't know, until I feel like it's tight or solid. If you're having trouble grabbing that wire, like I do sometimes, right? I'll use my bent chain. Now I'll come back here. See how I intentionally left that a little tail there? So I can come back and kind of make it match. And I'm going to wrap. You could also do this in a contrasting metal color. And I've got a little more wire here, so maybe I'll just go around just that top one there, and then that inside one right here. Tighten it down. Okay, that looks good. I like it. Now, since this is 26 gauge, I could use my Xeron cutters, but I'm going to continue to put these little snips through their paces. So I'm going to go ahead and use these guys. Again, these will be up on the website soon. Janice and I were chatting about them, and I believe they're on order. I think we're just waiting for that order to be ready to ship. So we'll have them up sometime in August. See that bent chain, how I can see the motion I'm doing? I'm pulling it around that little tail of wire, pulling it around to get it right inside, right there. Okay, so that's attached. Okay, let's turn this, and this is sturdy. So let me kind of, I want that loop to be closed a bit, so I'm just going to close it. There we go. And let me wrap these two. And then I can come back and fiddle with these later, the placement of those. But let me get that other side wrapped. Okay, so I've got that piece of wire that I cut away before, leaving a tail there. And I'm going to go, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that camera. I am going to wrap this a little more quickly because you guys saw me do the other one, and now I kind of know what I'm doing-ish. I don't know. Sort of, they say. I still have that third component on the back burner here, right? So as I'm designing like this, right, when I'm doing this on the fly, I try and stay one step ahead of my design brain, if that makes sense. So that I'm like, okay, I've got that other component sitting over there. How do I want it, how do I want it to sit? Do I want it in this, right? So my head is kind of multitasking. My hands are making this, and my head is moving forward with the next step of design. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's a little bit of an insight into how I kind of riff when I design. Let's get this one over here. Okay, that looks good. And I'll clip and clip and burnish those little ends around. This would look nice in a contrasting wire. Or since this is bare copper, and I wanted to do it today, I don't have time, but I might do it on Friday. If you join me for Free Tip Friday, I might use some liver of sulfur and antique these. Maybe. We'll see. Let me just... So I've got that. Okay. And let me get this third one. And this one, since that one's at the bottom, then this one comes, then this one comes. I want that space to be more even. There we go. That kind of looks interesting and fluid. I don't know. I think that the third one isn't helping, right? It's not adding anything to this design. So I'm going to set that aside. Maybe I want these to come in just a little bit more. And it feels, I don't know, you guys tell me, it feels like this middle is a little bare, maybe. So let me make that track even on the inside. Whoops, that I kind of took it out of shape though. Let me fix it. There we go. Let me try this. I'm going to get some 24 gauge. And I'm going to cut, my design board is 14 inches, so I'm going to cut 14, I'm going to cut 1.5 design board length, so that's 21 inches-ish. I'm going to start in the middle. I don't know, this may all be completely wrong. Oh, wax linen. Melanie, I just saw, hold it. Hold the phone. Stop the presses. Hang on. I'm going to get a piece of wax linen that same length. It does kind of have an eye feel to it. Definitely. Which maybe I'm influenced by that piece I did with Cynthia. Okay, let me see if this works. Those of you who follow my adventures on my social know that I've been, the Tour de France just ended, right? The most famous of the cycling races. And there's a thing that I do during the Tour de France called the Tour de Fleece, where I spin, not on a bike, but on my spinning wheel or on a spindle or whatever. So I've had fiber on the brain lately, and weaving and stuff. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to use this as an armature. I was going to use wire, but since I've got this wax linen, see that weave? It is kind of Mardi Gras mask-esque, I agree, especially with these two. Let's see if we can make it a little more abstract here. I like the way that this wax linen is looking. If you haven't worked with Irish wax linen, we carry it in a myriad of colors. And people use it for bookbinding, for basket making, for a whole lot of things. We use it for a lot of jewelry making. One of Janice's signature designs on beadshop.com is called Odyssey, and she uses that. Look at that. Look. I'm digging this. Gita is asking, will I come to Copenhagen next year for the tour start? Because they're starting in Denmark next year. Gita, you never know what'll happen. I've always wanted to see the tour live, though. I have seen the Tour de California live, which was very exciting. I don't know. I like the cycle races. So there's that. So now I'm going to make it match on this side. Okay. And so, Betty's saying I use a real spinning wheel. I do, Betty, use a real spinning wheel. I actually have 3 of them. I started my spinning adventure because my mom got me a wheel, because one year for my birthday I said, I'm going to learn how to make yarn, and asked for a spinning wheel. And my mom, being ever the good mother, did not question it in the least and just got me a wheel. So 3 wheels later and a number of spindles, I do. So I encourage you to jump in with your wheel. I will recommend my friend Abby Frankmont as an amazing spinning teacher. She has a great book. It's a book on the spindle spinning, actually. It's called Respect the Spindle by Interweave Press, which is also my book publisher. It's great. But there's also a bunch of resources online that you can use to learn to spin. It's a definite learning curve, but people have been spinning for thousands of years, so there's no reason why you can't jump in and do it as well. It's super satisfying. I love making yarn. And when you think about textiles, you guys, just think about it. Before the Industrial Revolution, right? The mid-1800s, 19th century. Before the Industrial Revolution and the industrialization of cloth, that's a whole discussion on its own, right? But all of the thread and yarn that were used was spun by hand, right? Women were constantly spinning to make yarn or thread. So it's so interesting to think that throughout the years, centuries, how cloth was made. It wasn't, we couldn't always go to, the fabric store and buy a length of cloth. So I don't know, I find it fascinating, and I find it really connects me to our crafting ancestors who went before us. I don't know why I'm getting so philosophical today. Maybe it's because it's Wednesday. I don't know. But it gives you something to think about while your hands are busy. So let's take a look at this wax linen and see how this is coming out. I think that looks terrific, right? I love it. And Betty, what I want you to do, you can go on my social, like my Insta, Beadkate is my Insta handle, and you can see some of the things that I've spun. But let me know. I want to know when you get that wheel out and you have made some yarn. I want to know how it's going. You can do it. Don't have no fear. I mean, if you've seen some of the lives, you guys, that I've done lately where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do this or whatever, right? Don't have any fear. Who cares, right? It's just a little bit of fiber or a little bit of wire or a few beads, and if you're not broadcasting to hundreds of people on the internet, then no one's going to know, right? So there's nothing to be afraid of. Tap into the crafting spirit of those foremothers and forefathers that went before us, and just make stuff, right? You can do it. I know you can. But I want to know. I'm putting you. I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'd love to see when you have taken that wheel out and got it going. So this is similar, this trick here that I'm doing, it's similar to twining a little bit. Twining's a little bit different. This is just a simple over-under weave, right? Kind of simple to that herringbone weave that we do, though the herringbone, we do it with 2 strands instead of 1. And you can see our herringbone projects that we have. They're really great great projects, really fast and easy with the Chinese knotting cord. This could also be Chinese knotting cord, right? But the wax really stays where you put it. I think that this would make an interesting center. So I'm going to stop it right there. Okay. So and my Insta, you can find me at Beadkate. And I didn't put it up at the beginning. I'm sorry, you guys. I was so excited about this. But I'll put all of our social up for beadshop.com. You want to go right to, it's at beadshop.com, all spelled out over on Insta. That's a great way to see like sneak peeks and stuff of what we're doing. So I think that looks pretty good. I am going to leave this there for a moment. I don't know what's going to happen next. So if I don't know what's going to happen, I'm just going to let that sit and let it simmer, okay, for a moment. And let me make just a couple of quick other components that I feel might go with this. So let me put that aside. I like this color. I think it because it has kind of a verdigris color, like what copper might actually have after you kind of leave it. Right? I'm going to get some 20 gauge. Now this, no, sorry. This was the one I was going to do. I'm going to get some 16 gauge again. This is what I wanted to show you guys. And I'm going to cut it with my memory wire. I have it off camera here. And Nikki's asking, is waxed linen sticky to clothing? It's not really. It doesn't, see how it's not really sticking to my finger, but it does help it stick to itself, and it helps it it gives it some body when you're working with it. So it's not like sticky, like waxy sticky, but it does help keep the cords all together and stuff. So let me measure. 2 inches, I'm going to say. Okay. 2, and whatever, if this is a little off, it doesn't matter. I'm cutting both at the same time. Now I'm going to get my round nose, and let's go ahead and make a loop at one end using my round nose pliers. Not a big loop. Okay. Then get my chain nose and help me center that loop. Sometimes it's easier when I do it this way instead of bending the wire. I'll make the loop and then I'll bend the loop back. A little bit easier sometimes for this heavy gauge. Okay, so here's this. Okay, and I'm gonna do this. And I just saw on just from the side of my eye, Kira, you were asking about selling your jewelry and stuff like that. Well, you know our Emily Miller. Uh, Emily is doing really well with her. She's doing some shows in the Sacramento area, one of her local farmers markets. And we've been talking a lot about marketing and selling jewelry. You can follow Emily. I think you can follow her over, and I know Gita, you'll be able to find this, and Janice, you will too, on her Insta at Emily. I think it's Emily B. Miller are her designs. We've talked a lot about booths and setups and stuff like that. So if I can persuade Emily, she's so busy right now, and she's doing a big show right on Labor Day. So she's really a busy lady, but maybe I can persuade her to join me for kind of a fun open discussion on a Free Tip Friday. So and talk a little bit about marketing and stuff like that, because she's really doing well. But I believe it's Emily B. Miller. I think you guys can find her on the Insta. So I'm going to just flatten these right here. And I'm going to kind of flatten the whole, not the whole thing, but like this. Okay, and you can see, since I hammered, how that opened a little bit. I'm just going to close it. And it doesn't have to be a perfect loop. I actually want it to have a little more of an organic feel to it. So I think that's okay. And I'm going to do the same with this one. And see how I flip back and forth to give it a little bit of a tap on both sides, okay? There we go. Oh, great. And Emily's Instagram went up. It's, yeah, Emily B. Miller. Yeah. But I think it would be a fun discussion, because many of us do sell our jewelry, and it's nice sometimes to have a forum of your peers to kind of have a nice Q&A about that. Okay, so here's this. Now I brought I'm going to use this little mandrel that we have here. I brought my file, and I was going to use that guy here, but I'm going to use this because we have this mandrel. And I'm going to, that 20 gauge or 24, maybe I want 20. I could split the difference and go 22. Let me see what I have here. Here's 20 gauge. That's a little heavy. I like the look of 22 gauge. Let me get it. Again, I'm still working in bare copper. Any of our parawire will work. So I'm going to use, if this is 1.5, this is 2, this is 3 millimeter. I'm going to see what the 3 millimeters look like. And I'm going to wrap a coil down that 3 millimeter mandrel. Okay. Now remember how I talked about these jump rings? This is the exact same way I'd make them, but I'm just making them teeny tiny. Okay. So it's the same, it's just a different scale. So here's my little coil that I've made. Now we could use our Xuron cutters here. So I'm going to come in and back and forth here, okay? This is my flush side, so I've cut. Now I'm going to flip my plier and cut. Okay, so I've got a nice ring. See that ring? Now you can see on the tip of this wire though, how it has a little burr on it. So I need to flip my plier back over so that the straight side of the plier is cutting towards the ring. Then I flip the plier again, and you guys have seen me do this, and I cut the ring away. Flip the plier back over, cut away that little dented piece, and then flip and clip, kids. That's the name of the game. And see how I'm only clipping one ring at a time. I also saw out of the side of my eye, Virginia just commented that she's been a spinner since 1990. Oh, I bet you're so accomplished. It is a bit of a learning curve, but I agree. It's so worth the effort, especially if you like meditative, repetitive tasks. And I find when I have to solve a problem, like a jewelry problem, or, if I have to ruminate over something, keeping my hands busy while I'm ruminating helps me to keep the juices flowing, I guess, creative juices, I suppose. So spinning, I use spinning a lot as a meditative effort. I call what we do, or what I do, being an omnicrafter. So I don't just stick to jewelry. I like it all, and I know that many of you are also omnicrafters. Whatever you like to create, I love it. Any tatters? Anybody do tatting out there? My gran did tatting. I've done a little bit of tatting. And then everyone laughs when I pull out the, who's done quilling? And then people start to laugh. But don't laugh too hard because I've also quilled. So now what we're going to do is, but not toll painting. Never toll painting. Okay? So I'm just kidding. Maybe toll painting once. 1992 is calling. They want their sponged wall back. Okay, so I've got my chain nose pliers here. Here we go, the bent chain. And I'm going to close these up pretty quickly. These are 22 gauge, I think is what I said that I used. So they're small, so they'll stay. And I can really just kind of close them with my hands. Since I really cut them with my flush cutter, they're a nice closed ring. Okay, there we go. You can even kind of flatten them this way, because what I'm going to use them for, they're not going to have to be perfectly closed because the gauge of wire is pretty heavy. Okay, so there we have it. You can even just slightly hammer these a little bit. But the smaller the diameter of ring is when you use fine gauge wire, the more sturdy these will be. So let me see what I have. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. Oh, I've got 13. That's quick, someone. Make one more. I could take it away and just do 12, but let's make it 14. Let me make one more ring so they're even. There we go. Okay. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I like that. Tatting is like lace making. It's sort of like lace making. Lace making is lace making. But tatting is kind of an open work lace kind of design. My gran taught me how to do it. You guys know this silk wrap, so I'm just going to silk wrap this sucker. You know what? Before silk wrapping this, I'm going to hammer because I don't want to hammer my metal. So I don't know. Can you tell I'm totally just making this up? Just stay with me here, kids. Stay with me. Let's see what happens. And flip it. I'm really going to hammer this out. There we go. Maybe straighten it just a touch. File that end. There's a whole bunch of people who do tatting who make jewelry out of it. There's a metalsmith that I know where she makes lace and does tatting, and then she casts it to make it into metal. It's pretty cool looking, if you ask me. But there's gobs of information about it online. Let me get this silk wrap ready to go. And if we have that, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm going the right way. We have a great skill builder on the silk wrap. Wax linen, Irish wax linen is great for silk wrapping because it really holds what you're doing. Let's see if I've made these little rings large enough or too big so that they won't slide over what I'm doing here. We hold that there, pull that through, and pull that loop right underneath. Threads popped under. I pull both, and that's not going anywhere. So let me clip this away. Being very careful not to nick anything as I'm cutting. Okay, those are staying there. Ish. See, they're a little, I was afraid of that. They were a little small, or these are a little bit big. What I want is some rings to kind of go back and forth across this. So I'm going to do this in real Kate time, not in explaining how I do this time. Okay, so just bear with me here. I'm going to go down a size. There we go. And clip. I'm going to leave that one as a coil. I'm going to go down to this 1.5 millimeter. Use this tiny bit of wire. And wrap it. I'm going to leave it in a coil just so that I don't take up the time of clipping these rings off again. You saw how I did it. Let me take these off. Oh, those little ones are nice too. I think this, though, is the size. So normally I wouldn't do this. I want them to be nice and even, but I'm just going to go ahead and clip down the center of this. I'm not flipping and clipping. And I'm also not closing, but there's all my little rings. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. And I'm going to hammer at the bottom of this pin out. Okay, and I'm going to check and see, yeah, that looks pretty good. See, that keeps those from falling down. So that's good. These would be closed a little bit. And let me get my another piece of that Irish wax linen. Oh, whoops, that's my weaving piece. I don't want to do that. I need a, where did all my wax linen go to? There it is, it fell on the floor. Come back here, you. Okay. So I'm going to come in and, okay. I'm going to get this piece. I'm going to lay it here, and then I'm going to silk wrap over all of this. Just stay with me. Stay with me. And I just added another little folded over piece here. Nothing super special, but I feel like I want some more dangle or something coming out of this. Okay. Fiber and wire, you guys. You can't go wrong. Now, which is the one that I'm supposed to be pulling through? I think it's this one. Yeah. So I'm going to put that through there. Pull down. Get everything into position. I think it was this one. Pop it under your wrap. Tighten it up. I want to get rid of all of this up here. I should have my thread snips, but I never quite have my thread. Oh, there they are. These are what we call the old school thread snippers. I really like them. Or you can use your Xeron thread cutters. Those would work well. Good for this as well. Now, let me see how, oops, let me make sure I'm in the zone here. Come back down. This one went back up. Well, I'll get them down in a second. Let's see if I have any little bead or something sitting here from one of my, here's like a seed bead or two. I've got a couple tossed across the table here from whatever project we just did. Then let's put a little knot here. This is kind of like with that piece that I did with Cynthia, that Cynthia centerpiece, right? I had some little beads embellishing on it. Yeah. What other bead do I have here? Oh, what a surprise. I have a little metal shadow bead. No surprise that I've got one floating here. Now this has a big hole, so I can either find, oh look, here's a small fire polish bead that's on the table. Let me see if it fits. This is a 3mm fire polish. Will it fit through? Yeah. So that'll kind of plug up the hole. Then the knot I'm tying is a double overhand, so I'll go through once and I'll go through twice to give myself a nice fat knot. It's a little tiny piece of thread, so I'm going to grab it with my pliers. And then I don't know where I want the knot to land. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay. So there's two. Let's get one more piece of, I want those to kind of sit in the middle. Let me get one more. There's got to be a couple more beads sitting on this table. There's one. And it's a good thing I never sweep in here. Look, there's another shadow. Perfect. Shadow needs to go at the, or the seed bead needs to go at the bottom. Oops. And see, that's why also I like this wax, is because you can draw that tip right down, and so it stiffens it. This is an 8/0 seed bead. Ooh, and here's another 8/0 seed bead. There we go. Completely random colors. I've got no idea. I'll look and see that maybe I want this knot to end up right here. So I'll make a loop, and I will go through once and twice to make sure it's a nice fat knot. Grab my pliers because that's the smallest piece of thread to pull through. Kind of look and see where it's going to land. It's going to land about right there, which looks good. Let's bring all these little beads down. Nice. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to leave a little bit of an end, a little bit of a tail, but let me get these cut. There's one. I'm going to cut them at an angle. 2 and then 3. Let me open this loop up so I can get this jump ring back where it needs to be. There we go. I feel like it might need a few more of these rings. So I'm going to open this. You could also get like a round, like a bead that has a real big hole and do this with too. I don't know. I just thought I'd try and make a few little rings with this to see how it looked. Beads might look better, or a mix of beads in these little rings that you've made. Oops, that one's caught. Get that off of there. Come on, I'm the boss of you. There we go. Close that up. So now, something like this, let's take a look at what we have. Now we come to assess. Okay. So here's this. Here's my little friend that I was working on earlier. Again, that little, just that plain weave, over and under, over and under. And I have just enough time to show you guys my trick with the ear wire. And I think that dangle that I just made, this one I think would also look pretty good as an earring. It's pretty light as I'm holding it, though it would also make a good centerpiece, I think. But you could, I don't know, adding this fiber I think is cool. Again, you could use that Chinese knotting cord in whatever size you like. Probably a 0.4 or a 0.5 will be the one that you would want to use. 0.8 millimeter might be a little bit thick unless you're using a heavier gauge. I'm going this at Kate speed now, so but I talked a little bit about the technique earlier in the episode. If you're joining us late, you can always watch us on replay on all of our different social platforms, but if you're watching on YouTube, it's a great way to catch all of our videos, and if you hit that like and subscribe button as you're watching, or if you're watching us on replay, we would really super appreciate it. So I'm right here, right at the end. I think I can get it through one more time, maybe. There we go. Okay. And then I think what I would do to close that off, I think I can get it through here one last time. And I'm just going to knot it through once. Add a drop of GS Hypo. Does your GS Hypo always end up looking like this? Mine always does, so you're not alone. Let me just wipe off the tip. There we go. A little dot of GS right there. And I'm going to tie one more knot, and then that glue will dry. But if I tie my knot over that glue, it'll be nice and tight. So I went through and I just did a loop and went through. I'm going to do that one more time. See, I've got a little more space there. So I'll make that loop, go through that loop, and tighten it down again. I'll add one more drop of glue. See, that's nice and glued back there. And if I let that sit overnight, that'll be a nice, clean closure. But for now, I'm going to come in and shear away that excess cord. And I would finish the bottom of this the same way. I love this component. I think it would look great as an earring. You could, with this one that's coming down here, we could add a few more pieces like this and have some dangles coming down from it. I'm just going to let that sit there. This, I think, would make a great earring as well, though you could also use these as component, like you could do several of these, maybe a cross in a necklace might be cool. Let me make an earring component for this though, okay? And I'm going to use the silver plated pair wire, which I love doing earrings for, ear wires with. I like them a lot. Let me just make, I just cut a length. This is 20 gauge, and 20 gauge is what I always use for my ear wires. Let me go ahead and make a loop on the end. And I'm just going to make a couple of ear wires for you here. I've got just a few moments to finish. I'm going to make that as a nice flush cut. Make that loop, nice size loop, so you can see it's there. Now remember way back when I said I had my ear wire jig tool? Whoops, I set those in the beads. I'll get that back. That's this pen that has the clip. So I put that loop under the clip of the pen, and I bring my wire around. Pull it out, and just make this measurement consistent, whatever that measurement is. Clip, so that's about less than an inch, about 3/4 of an inch or so there. File, file, file. Pull that end up just a little bit. Hammer that out. So see how it has a nice shape to it? Open. Open it up large enough so that your component goes in. close. And there we have it. Looks a little naked up here. So I'm gonna, something's bothering me about that. I don't think it's as balanced visually as it could be. So let me do the world's fastest silk wrap on this. I'll also keep those rings in line. There we go. Pull it together. Maybe the rings would look better in a contrasting color. I could make them silver to match the head pin. That's a little bit better. It's a little more balanced in my eyes, maybe. Let me put it on my hand. I don't know. It's not bad. I don't know. It still needs a little bit of refinement, I think. And maybe I want this metal in the front and not the back. The ear wire is a 20 gauge, and it's the Parawire silver plate. The plating on this is so heavy, so you won't have any issues at all. There we go. I like how the tassels, the little tassels are coming out the back. So they definitely have kind of a boho flair to them. They work with that festival wrap that I made. But again, silver rings probably is the way that I want to go with them. We'll see. So that's my riff for today. I hope, let me get kind of close so you guys can see this. I hope this sparked something in your creativity. This, as I say, it would also make a pretty good center for a wrap, right? I could, now that this is, like if I didn't like this wrapping here, now that it's lashed together, I could maybe do this instead with Irish wax linen, or wrap some over the top of it, whatever. I don't know. This is the right side. It's this way. So the knot. But it would look cool incorporated into a wrap. These that open, they're a little sticky, not sticky, but they stick out a little bit. So I might actually just put them in this way, maybe, I don't know. So they close up. I don't know, it's still a work in progress, but there we go. I think I like them closed a little bit. They add a little bit of dimension without looking like eyes and eyebrows. There we go. That's kind of cool looking. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this kind of weird, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's a cool infinity, kind of an infinity thing. I don't know. So we'll see. I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And it gave you, let me get rid of that pile of tools so you can see that. Now's the time for your screenshot. If you want to take one, there we go. You can see how both of those look. I hope that this sparks some creativity. I'm liking these earrings more and more as I see them. They're coming along. So thank you guys so much. Let me get out of my here, and I will come here. Here I am. So I think it was fun. It was a good play. Good. I promised you wire play day, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of playing and that sparked some creativity for you there. We've got a couple things coming up. So tomorrow, check your newsletters. Newsletters are going out, even though Drea is away this week on vacation, which we're excited to have her be on vacay. We are bringing back, see this tube in my hand right here. This is an all-time fan favorite monthly mix. This monthly mix is back from July 2018. This one's called Family Reunion. It was one that Janice made, and everyone loved it. And we talked a little bit about it a few broadcasts ago. So Janice got all the beads back in, we mixed it, and Family Reunion is coming back tomorrow. It will be in stock, and we have a very limited amount. So if you want it, or if you want another tube, and it's just slightly different. We had to substitute one bead that wasn't available for us. So there's just a little bit of a different bead in there, but it's great. I love it so much, this Family Reunion. On Friday, I'm going to talk, on Free Tip Friday, I'm going to talk a little bit about memory wire and how we deal with memory wire, and pull some of the memory wire projects that we've done, including this Family Reunion project. Okay, so that's what's happening. So mark your calendars, open your newsletters tomorrow on July 22nd, and this will be in. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining us. Let me put some, get some of that housekeeping stuff up. You can follow us at beadshop.com and the Bead Table, our Beadshop group. We'd love to see you there. And if you're watching us on YouTube, either now or on replay, thank you so much. You can like and subscribe us subscribe to us right at beadshop.com. And you can find all of the information on the project and products from today's broadcast right on our website. This broadcast will be put up on our live broadcast tab. We won't have a project page for this because this really isn't a project. It's just kind of a wire riff, but I used all kinds of wire gauges, including 16 gauge for the base, Irish wax linen to weave, and then just a variety of other wires for you to play around with. So sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. And also check our homepage. We usually have some kind of fun promo up there as well. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me. And we appreciate the likes, the shares, all of that. Because of you, we are here doing what it is that we love. I will see you on Friday. And I also wanted to mention, you guys, it's July, if you're watching this live, and Janice just reminded me of it. We are having a little bit of a COVID resurgence right now in certain parts of the country. So I want to remind everybody out there that we still want to be safe, right? And for those of you who are choosing to wear your masks, which I am still doing out in public, even though I am fully vaccinated and have been since March, we want to continue to be safe. We don't want these numbers to get out of control, because we want to continue to be able to meet and greet and see each other in person. Also, one of our customers who also works in the hospital field is also saying that blood donations are really needed right now. So as my public service announcement, I will say that if you are a blood donor, and my dad is one, my dad has given so much blood and plasma and all of those things, and I was the recipient of a life-saving blood transfusion. Please, if you are so inclined, blood is needed right now. So that is my public service announcement. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay creative. Love you guys. See you on Friday. Thanks, everybody.